Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all, and welcome to another video from Islam God Answers. So this video, I'm gonna be honest, this video I could not pass up. I know I said in the video I rebutted, testify on the bewitchment of the Prophet, I could not pass this one up. I could not pass this one up. I actually had another video that I was gonna rebut from testify about John 17:3, which is a clear proof against Trinity, obviously, but this video is just miles better, just so much better. I could not ever pass this up because this is another video from our good old friend Sam Shamone, and today, or as I like to call him, Sam Estupido Shamone, and today he's going to make a claim about Islam, and he's going to make it, and it is going to backfire terribly against his own religious text. Okay? So, with that being said, this is probably one of the most ignorant clips of Sam Shamone because he fails to understand. Obviously, he's ignorant on Islam, but he fails to understand a historical fact, and he fails to read his own Bible. This is so apparent that literally any Christian who does a single bit of research into the Bible, which apparently he has, would know not to use this exact argument because it doesn't work. With that being said, I know you guys can't wait. Neither can I. Neither can I. Let's unmute this. And I'm going to go ahead and play the video, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Let's get with the rebuttal.
In Christianity, do you guys ever talk about anything like this?
Brother, I love you, my brother in humanity. One of our arguments is that Islam is steeped in paganism, the rituals you do.
Really?
Let me explain it to you. No Muslim will deny what I'm about to tell you, but they're going to explain it away. You ask the Muslim, did the pagans at Mecca run around the Kaaba 7 times? Yes. Did they run between Safa and Marwa 7 times? Yes. Did they throw 7 stones at Wadi Mina? Yes. Did they kiss the black stone? Yes. So Muslims admit the pagans did it. So your religion is steeped in paganism.
Not quite, Sam. See, what you're failing to understand is that the Kaaba and those practices were not originally pagan in nature. Rather, they were made pagan by the pagan Arabs. For instance, we believe that the Kaaba was built by Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam. And according to Exodus 5:1, Moses is speaking to Pharaoh, and he says, let my people go so they can make chag. Okay, they can make chag. So, this was not an original practice which was intended to be pagan. If it had roots in paganism, okay, and it was never, according to our sources, meant to be something of monotheism, then yeah, you would have a point, even if our sources admit that it was built by pagans and it was always pagan. Of course, we would. That's even that wouldn't be a problem, I don't think. But still, we don't believe, okay, that the Kaaba and the practices that we Muslims do in Hajj, they're not pagan by nature. They were made pagan by the pagan idolaters because the idolaters twist practices of monotheism into paganism. So, obviously we believe that it is by Ismail alayhi salam. Now, let's see what Sam's rebuttal to that is.
Oh, but it was originally instituted by Ishmael when he went to Mecca and Abraham joined him. Number 1, there is no historical, archaeological, textual evidence, none before Islam, that Abraham Ishmael ever settled in Mecca, nor that Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael. Doesn't exist, and we got the evidence.
Sam has a convincing point here. There is no historical or archaeological evidence which suggests that Ismail alayhi salam was ever in Mecca, nor is there any evidence that suggests that the Prophet was a descendant of Ishmael. That's a really interesting point. Except that there's no archaeological or historical evidence for the existence of Abraham himself, peace and blessings be upon him, which is an argument that can be used even against you by atheists. Continue.
But at least this part, that these were pagan rituals, is acknowledged. So when you talk about paganism, religion came out of paganism.
What about the whole pagan?
No, Sam. Our religion did not come out of paganism. Our religion was monotheism, and it is monotheism. But certain practices of our religion, unfortunately, have been turned into paganism by the pagans. However, with the coming of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those practices were devoid of any paganism, and they were strictly turned into what they were originally intended by the people who did them originally, and by the one true God, the Lord of you and I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's how we have the place of monotheism. So, how does this claim backfire against Sam's own religious text? Because according to him, his God built something pagan. Because following Sam's logic, that if pagans do a specific practice or they use a specific place of worship for their pagan worship, it means that it's pagan, right? The religion is pagan. So, what about the temple? The temple was turned into a place of paganism and idolatry. But Islam got answers. You don't have Bible for that. We want Bible saying that. No problem. Read this with me. Read this. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing? The utterly detestable things the Israelites are doing? Things that will drive me far from my sanctuary? Wait a minute. What do you mean? What do you mean? Drive you far from your sanctuary? So look. Let's read all this entire passage. Ezekiel's going to the court. Okay. Now let's go to 14. Let's go to verse 14. Okay. Now all this is basically, you can read this. I'm not ignoring context here. You can read this. But I just want to go to the relevant parts. Then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord, and I saw women sitting there mourning the god of Tamas. He said to me, Do you see this, son of man? You will see things that are even more detestable than this. Well, what could be more detestable than that? He then brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and there at the entrance to the temple, between the portico and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces towards the east. They were bowing down to the sun in the east. Okay. Wow. Crazy, right? But what about if that's not enough for you? Do you want more Bible passages? Well, of course, I never run out, so I have many more for you. Read this with me. Let's read together. Will you steal and murder, commit idolatry and perjury, burn incense to Baal and follow gods you have not known, and then come and stand before me in this house, which bears my name, and say, we are saved to do all these detestable things? Has this house which bears my name become a den of robbers to you? But I have been watching, declares the Lord. Interesting. Well, what if that is not clear enough for you? What if it's talking about some temple? It's not the temple that David and Solomon built. Show me Bible where it says that. Okay, no problem. Happy to oblige. Let's read this with me. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 55 years. His mother's name was Chabzippah. I don't know how to say that. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the detestable practices of the nations the Lord had driven out of before Israelites. He rebuilt the high places his father Hezekiah had destroyed. He also erected altars to Baal and made a Sharpul, as Achab, king of Israel, had done. He bowed down to all the starry hosts and worshipped them. Okay, now read this part here. Now read these verses 4 to 7. He built altars in the temple of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, in Jerusalem I will put my name. In the 2 courts of the temple of the Lord, he built altars to all the starry hosts. He sacrificed his own son in the fire, practiced divinations, sought omens, and consulted mediums and spiritists. He did much evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. Now, if you're just falling asleep, I want you to wake up for this last verse, because even without this context, this last verse is just important. He took the carved Asherah pole he had made, put it in the temple of the Lord, of which the Lord had said to David and to his son, Solomon, in this temple and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. Wow. That's pretty clear, isn't it? But how does that backfire against Sam's argument? Well, you see, in many places throughout the Tanakh, the temple has been either rebuilt or reformed or is promised to be. Take 2 Chronicles 29. The entire chapter is about Hezekiah reforming the temple and removing the idolatry. Or about 2 Kings 23, after Josiah found the book of the law. Whoopsie, how did that happen? He reformed the temple by taking out all of the idols and destroying all those altars of idolatry in the temple of God. Or what about Ezra 6, where the temple was rebuilt and reestablished as a place of monotheism? Or what about in Malachi 3, verses 1 to 4, where it promises that God will be at his temple again, and that then sacrifices will be offered? Won't that be a place of monotheism? But wasn't it a place of paganism? So Sam, are you telling me that God will reside in a pagan temple? Interesting. What about Haggai 2, 6 to 9, which says that the glory of God will be in the temple? The temple that used to be pagan. Interesting. Or what about Ezekiel 43 and 44, which depicts a restored temple where sacrifices will be made? Sacrifices will be made in a pagan temple? That's wild, Sam. What do you got to say about that? Now, we're not done here, because there's still a bit more ground to cover. Sam says that our religion is steeped in paganism, but we know we worship the one true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not associate any partners with him. We do not associate any partners with him, and we believe that he is the one and only. We do not believe, that blood forgives or atones for sins. This is what Sam believes. What the hell could it be any more, respectfully, all due respect, what could it be any more pagan than that? Believing that bloodshed is what ultimately atones for sin. But what about Sam's Bible? Surely there's no paganism in Sam's Bible, right? Of course not. It's all just amazing and there's no paganism. Wait, what's this on your screens? I mean, I guess let's read it. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips and among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. Okay. Is that all the paganism? Surely, right? I mean, there can't be any more paganism, right? Nope. Wrong again. How do you explain this, Sam? Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. Whoa. We don't pour drink offerings and oil offerings on stones. He also poured oil on it. Ooh, interesting. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. And lastly, we have this passage, number 16, 46 to 48. Then Moses said to Aaron, Take your censer and put incense in it, along with burning coals from the altar, and hurry to the assembly to make atonement for them. Wrath has come out from the Lord, the plague has started. So Aaron did as Moses said, ran into the midst of the assembly. The plague had already started among the people, but Aaron offered the incense and made atonement for them. So incense makes atonement? That's pretty pagan. He stood between the living and the dead, and the plague stopped. Okay. Incense stops the plague sent by God. Pretty pagan to me. Anyway, I apologize if this rebuttal was a bit long. I know my rebuttals have been a bit long recently, but we just had to read Sam's Bible. So, Sam, how do you explain away these things? How do you explain away that according to the Tanakh, God will give sacrifices in a pagan building? That God will reside in a pagan building, according to your logic, not according to mine. That God condoned that Ezra rebuild a pagan building, and that pagan building be reestablished for monotheism. Again, this is not a problem for us. This is a problem for you if you want to say that we are steeped in paganism for this reason. That's it, y'all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Catch you on the Das Connected to Islam stream where you can bring any objections to my argument there. And I'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum. You guys take care.